So I have some larger trees on the property that I want to slab, which would require at least a 25-inch bar and chain, which is a bit larger than my Stihl MS 261 here can handle. So a 25-inch bar, that would put me into the 60cc class of chainsaws or larger. So I've been doing some research and looking over specs, features, and reading reviews. And so as I go through my selection process, I thought I'd go ahead and make a video about what I think are the top 4 60cc chainsaws. So just keep in mind as I go through this that the best chainsaw is the one that meets the criteria which is most important to you. So I'll primarily be using the chainsaw for slabbing work, and since slabbing work is really hard on the saw, requiring really long cuts at high RPM, the chainsaw needs to be durable. And after years of slabbing, I've decided that I really prefer the lighter weight saws. They're a lot easier to control on entry and exit cuts, and they're a lot easier to carry around once you add the weight of a lumber jig. And I really hate to have to stop a job in order to fix a problem, so I'm looking for a reliable chainsaw that starts and runs properly every time. And finally, since I'm not a professional, I'm not planning to make money with the chainsaw. Cost is another important consideration. So based on the factors that are most important to me, I've been looking for a professional chainsaw from the major brands that are available here in the US. In alphabetical order, that's going to be the Echo CS-620P, the Husqvarna 562XP, the Makita, also sold as the Dolmar EA6100, and finally the Stihl MS 362. So all these chainsaws have professional features like a magnesium case, a rim sprocket, and an adjustable oiler, and they range in power from 4.5 to 4.7 horsepower, so there's not a huge power difference between the chainsaws, and I haven't really seen much of a difference in terms of cut speeds in the cut comparison videos that I've watched. So I also think that all these chainsaws are pretty solid performers, and they would all be able of doing the work that I need to do. But there are some differences. So let's go through each one, and I'll talk about the specs, some of the features, and some of the highlights and lowlights of each of these chainsaws. Okay, so let's start with the Echo CS-620P. So the Echo is definitely on the low end of the price range, and according to Echo, it can run up to a 27-inch bar. Now, to my knowledge, the Echo is a very durable chainsaw, and they're using a pretty simple design, so it should be easy to work on. However, it's also the heaviest, the least powerful, and it's the only chainsaw out of the group that's using an older non-stratified engine design. Now, based on what I've read and seen in other comparisons, the Echo anti-vibration system and air filtration isn't quite at the same level as the other chainsaws in the group. Now, there are aftermarket solutions that will give you a better air filter and a better air filter seal as well. But of course, that's going to cost you a bit more. Now, personally, I do like the old school controls and the really durable metal on-off switch that Echo is using. And Echo does have a really great dealer network here in the US. And they're also offering a 5-year warranty for consumers, which is also the longest warranty of any of the chainsaws in the group. Now, the Echo does come at a reasonable price point compared to the other chainsaws, but it doesn't quite line up to all the criteria that's important to me. So because I'm going to be using the chainsaw primarily for slabbing work, I'm going to be operating it consistently at high RPMs, burning a lot of fuel, and breathing in a lot of exhaust fumes. Now, I've used both stratified and non-stratified engine designs for slabbing work, and I've seen firsthand how much more fuel efficient and how much cleaner burning the newer stratified engine designs are. Also, the Echo is the heaviest chainsaw of the group, and weight is one of the most important factors for me. Okay, so next up is the Husqvarna 562XP. Now, the 562XP is the most powerful chainsaw of the group, and Husqvarna recommends up to a 28-inch bar, which is longer than the recommendations from the other chainsaw manufacturers. And overall, Husqvarna has put a lot of effort into the design of this chainsaw. According to the reviews that I've read, it has excellent anti-vibration and air filtration systems. It also comes with a priming bulb for easier starts, and comes with auto-tune, which is Husqvarna's auto-tuning carburetor. However, the 562XP is the second heaviest chainsaw of the group. Now, Husqvarna sells chainsaw bars in 24 and 28-inch lengths. Now, the 24-inch length is a little bit too short for my needs, so I'd have to bump up to the larger 28-inch length bar, which of course would even add more weight to the saw. Now, weight aside, there are a few reasons why I've decided not to buy the 562XP, and it's basically related to personal preference. So first, I really prefer not to have an auto-tuning carb. I think that it adds complexity to the design and cost to the parts, and manual adjusting carb works just fine for me. Also, the priming bulb, it adds another maintenance item and another potential fail point. I don't think that priming bulbs really add a significant benefit to the starting procedure, in my opinion. This also uses an external clutch, which in my experience requires more cleaning and more effort in installing the chain and the clutch cover. It's also more difficult to swap out the rim gear. Now, I would probably be okay with any one of these features, but Husqvarna managed to put all the features which I don't particularly like into one chainsaw, and the other chainsaws just match my preferences a little bit better. But perhaps the more important aspect is not what I think, but what actual owners are reporting. The 562XP has user ratings which are a bit lower than the other chainsaws in the group, and you can see that reflected in some of the YouTube reviews as well, with various problems being reported. Now, a lot of the problems seem to relate to the auto-tune carburetor, and the 562XP is the only chainsaw in the group which doesn't offer a standard carburetor option. Now, considering that reliability is one of my most important aspects, and also the fact that the 562XP is the second most expensive chainsaw of the group, it's just not my top pick. Now, with that said, Husqvarna does have a strong dealer network here in the US, and I noticed on their website that they're releasing a Mark II version of this chainsaw. Now, I haven't seen the full specs or seen any reviews of the Mark II, but I'm guessing that they've addressed some of the concerns that I mentioned. So I bet the Mark II is going to be a stronger competitor and probably a better option than the current version. Okay, so next up is the Makita EA6100. Now, the Makita is a very interesting option with some of the best design elements in my personal opinion. Now, the street price can vary a lot from day to day, but as I'm making this video, the 6100 is the cheapest of the four chainsaws. Now, Makita recommends up to a 24-inch bar, but general consensus suggests that you can run a 28-inch bar with this chainsaw. Now, the Makita comes with a very strong stratified engine, comes with excellent anti-vibe and air filtration systems, and it's the second lightest chainsaw of the group. Now, this saw has some unique features. It's the only chainsaw of the group which doesn't come with a decompression valve, but to make starting easier, they have a spring-assisted starter, a special ignition coil with a higher output, a lower RPM, and a priming bulb. Now, this chainsaw also comes with the largest fuel tank by far at 27 fluid ounces, which is a feature which I'd really appreciate while slabbing lumber. Now, in my opinion, the primary downside of the Makita 6100 has to do with the availability of parts and service in the future. Now, Makita does not have the same extensive dealer network as the other manufacturers have here in the US, as they primarily seem to be dependent on independent chainsaw shops. And also, I've read recently that Makita is exiting out of the gas chainsaw business, so I'm not really clear how long parts and service are going to be available into the future. Okay, so last but not least is the Stihl MS 362, which is this guy's bigger brother. Now, the 362 weighs in at only 12.3 pounds, making that saw the lightest of the bunch, and it also has the highest power to weight ratio. Now, Stihl recommends up to a 25-inch bar with that chainsaw, but I see a lot of these saws in professional usage using longer bars. Now, Stihl is the only manufacturer that puts out a 25-inch bar, which just so happens to be perfect for my use because I can slab my largest trees without having to bump up to a 27 or 28-inch bar, which gives the 362 an even better weight advantage. Now, based on what I've read and seen, the Stihl MS 362 is a great quality chainsaw with excellent anti-vibration and air filtration systems. Now, Stihl sells two versions of the chainsaw. They sell an M-tronic version, which comes with the auto-tuning carburetor, but they also sell a standard version, which comes with the manually adjustable carburetor. Now, there's really only one obvious downside to the Stihl MS 362, in my opinion. That's the fact that it's the most expensive chainsaw out of the four. But do keep in mind there are a couple of things that you're paying for there. First of all, Stihl has developed a really strong reputation for quality and reliability. But also, they do not allow for direct online sales, which means that part of that higher price is going to support local dealers. And Stihl does have a very large local dealer network, which means that you're more likely to be able to get parts and service into the foreseeable future. Now, before I get to my final summary, there's one more aspect about these chainsaws I thought was worth mentioning. That's the fact that when I was looking over engine designs, I noticed that both Husqvarna and Makita are using a single piston ring design in their engine, whereas Echo and Stihl are both using double piston rings. Now, I'm not an engine expert, but it seems to me that having a single piston ring design should be a little bit more efficient because it's producing less drag, whereas a double piston ring design I think would potentially hold more compression over the life of the chainsaw. Now, I'm not really sure, but I'm interested to see other opinions, so if you have a strong opinion on this, let me know down in the comments. Okay, so that's a brief look at the 60cc professional chainsaws that I've been considering. Now, I do think that Echo and Husqvarna make great chainsaws, but they just weren't the best options based on the factors that were most important to me. Overall, I think Stihl checked most of the boxes in terms of the features that I like in a saw, but the Stihl is a really expensive chainsaw, and overall I think that the Makita 6100 has the best price per performance. Now, I've recently acquired both a Makita 6100 and a Stihl MS 362 chainsaw. Now, the story of how or why I ended up with two chainsaws will have to wait for the next video. But the next video I'll be unboxing the chainsaws, and I'll do a much more detailed comparison between those two chainsaws. So if you're interested in seeing that, be sure to subscribe and turn on your notifications. So hopefully this video has been useful, and if you're looking for a 60cc professional chainsaw, I hope that this was informative. But just keep in mind that whatever I end up choosing is based on my personal preferences and may or may not be the best chainsaw for you. So that's all I have for this video, and we'll see you next time.